first things first, Chris, Dan, thank you so much for taking the time to do this. It is an absolute pleasure. First things first, how are you doing today?
I'm really good. Yourself, how are you?
I'm well, thank you. I'm well.
Good.
Not dying. You look like you're dying in the heat, Dan.
I am. I'm currently suffering a bit of a hangover from yesterday's gigs. My neck is in a few bits.
All right, with that in mind, then I won't keep you too long. Overall, then, how is everyone in the I Fight Bears camps, particularly based off the fact that the last month in particular has been very, very, very spectacular for you?
Yeah, I mean, we're all good. We're all incredibly busy at the moment with all the stuff that we've got going on, specifically around the Bloodstock space. There's a lot of organisation that goes on around that space. Probably took us a couple of days just to do our tech spec and get that sent over. We're all prepping merch and we're playing warm-up shows as well, as Dan can attest to because he's dying from one from last night. Probably the warmest show we've ever played. Well, to be fair, it was the warmest day the UK has ever had, and we played a show and there was no aircon. So that was horrendous. I went through three t-shirts last night.
It was a bit of an experience, yes.
What about that crowd though, man? It must have been absolutely melting. Was the energy still there by the time you hit kind of track 5 or 6?
I mean, the venue was serving quite a lot of water last night, put it that way.
Amazing.
I felt a bit bad for the one of the support bands, because after like everyone had kind of like piled in to watch us, and then we had finished, everyone went outside to cool down, and everyone kind of stayed outside for a bit longer than they should while they were playing. So I think me and Chris went and watched like most of their show, purely because everyone was still sort of melting outside, which was a bit of a shame really, because they were really good guys. Shout out
awesome. We suffered the heat and we took videos for everyone else.
Yeah.
The fact that you've managed to play a gig yesterday is testament to your drive, I think, more than anything else. But let's talk about the first great thing to come from I Fight Bears in recent time. The release of your brand new EP, Brrraaains. It's been out since June 24th, so almost a full month at this stage. Now the dust is settling a little bit on it. How have you found the overall reaction to it?
Really, really overwhelming. I was down in West Wales when the boys emailed, said on group chat that there's an email coming through from Metal Hammer, and it was a review email saying that they reviewed us, and we were all sort of like winding each other up, saying, or it was like 1 out of 10 or 2 out of 10 or something. And then Chris and Drew were like, "Oh, have you checked?" And I checked, and it was 8 out of 10. And like the score means, like, you know, the score is a score, that's someone's opinion, but just being on like a prestigious magazine like that, it was pretty overwhelming. And in your head you kind of like say to yourself, wow, I'm kind of going down the correct route of at the moment, and it's just a really, really cool hobby for us. So it's pretty awesome that people can share what and listen to what we've been making in the last couple of years.
Yeah, that's the nice reaction to the Metal Hammer bit, but you're not going to mention the Kerrang radio bit where we were in band practice. They came through and said, "Oh, you know, you're going to be playing on Kerrang radio." Dan screamed like a little girl for about 5 minutes.
I did. But it's like, it's all these little sort of nods and stuff, and like all these like overwhelming reactions and positive things that are coming towards us, that at the moment, you know, it's like work and general life takes over, but having this like really, really awesome sort of hobby happen and get like big at the same time is like really cool. It's overwhelming. It's just it's hard to put into words sometimes.
The thing with the new EP, I mean, the conception of the band was 5 mates that just decided that, I mean, we'd all been, you know, in and around the music scene previously and all done bands in various genres, you know, some wildly different to what we're playing today. We all kind of sat in a room over Mark's house, who's the other guitarist, and we were all just like throwing genres at the wall. And the one that kind of we all said, oh yeah, I like that one. So like the common ground was early 2000s metalcore. So we were like, let's do that. Let's try and play early 2000s metalcore 20 years after it was popular. So that's what the first album was. That's what the first probably 12 songs that we wrote were kind of focusing on. When we, not to say that we reinvented ourselves by any stretch of the imagination, but when we started work on the EP, which was originally supposed to be an album, but we condensed it to an EP because we wanted to only pick the best songs that we had at that time. We didn't want to put out filler material. It was just, these are the best ones that we can do. It was a case of, well, we were early 2000s metalcore, but we've all got these, wildly different experiences, different genres, different tastes. Let's add a lot of that in. And what came out was the EP that we've got today. And I think that we still play like a homage to the roots of what our core sound is, but there's enough differences and variation in there that there's something new for other people to listen to. We're not just a kill switch band anymore. We can do more with our music.
So was that what the original vision was when it came to creating the EP, to give this reinvention life, as it were? And I think the question's always going to come up relating to that as well, is the period that work kind of went on in that, and that it's now come out afterwards, the pandemic. Did that have a lot of effect on it?
Yes, definitely. So I'm trying to remember the dates now, but I think our first album came out in around 2017, 2018. And we already had 4 or 5 songs ready to go for EP at that point. We went to a residential recording studio up in Mid Wales called Giant Wafer. And anyone that hasn't been should definitely check it out because it's amazing. You basically get a full house attached to a massive recording studio with a live room and a soundproof room and a kitchen, and there's a whole load of stories associated with that recording session. But we went up there and we decided to track the demos that we had, and the versions of those demos that came out at the time we loved. We came away from that recording session really happy, but there was a product of time that happened. We didn't want to release it immediately. We wanted to do some minor tweaks to it. And over the course of probably a few months after listening to it on repeat and talking about it, and we played a couple of the songs live before they were released, we wanted to just make originally minor adjustments to those tracks. And I can't remember whether it was myself or Mark who decided that these songs will sound heavier if we tune our guitars down to B, because I think we were originally in C before. And it was a joke. It was like, yeah, everything's heavier when it's lower. Unfortunately for us, it did sound better when we tuned it down, which then meant we needed to re-record all of the guitars to all of these songs. And then when we'd done that, we realized that the vocals needed to be changed because Drew's kind of vocal melodic lines, he works in a certain range. And when we dropped everything down a little bit, he needed to tweak everything. Because he needed to tweak the melodies, he needed to tweak the lyrics that went alongside it. So then Dan is impacted by that, and he changes all his, harsh vocals along with it. I think probably the only person who wasn't impacted that much is Scott, because the drums remained consistent. They were like the core of that.
Yeah.
So that's probably, I want to say, early 2020, and we had working versions of these songs, and then COVID kind of smashed everyone in the face and decided, no, you're not going to do anything with your life. You're going to stay inside. So it was at that point that we reevaluated what we were going to do. We knew that if we recorded this EP, we didn't want to release it in the middle of a global lockdown because our preference for the kind of the distribution of that music outside of streaming services and online is live. So we want to play you these songs loud in your face, and you can feel the heat coming off us as we're playing the last song in front of you. So that kind of just stalled us essentially. We did a couple of things. We did a couple more tweaking to those tracks over the course of the pandemic, and then towards the end, we're talking like end of lockdown 2, start of lockdown 3, we started really getting into the recording process, and then pretty much released it when everything was open again. So it was quite good timing, to be honest. And coincidentally, we entered the Metal to the Masses competition for Bloodstock, and we realised that our EP release would coincide with, I think it was the semi-final. So it was like, well, our goal with this now is we need to get far enough through the competition that we can play the EP release show in front of a Bloodstock appreciative crowd.
It must have been quite maddening to a certain degree, though, because in the early stages of the pandemic, of course, we never really knew how long things were going to last, and certainly could never envision the shutdown of sticking to the music industry specifically, the shutdown that we would see across, just sticking to the UK, the live venues, and what followed from that. Was that always something that was hanging over you, that you were kind of just waiting for the first opportunity when you could properly get this EP out there?
Definitely. Yeah, definitely. Because after sort of lockdown eased, and then other shows and gigs were starting to happen, we decided to put a big sort of Halloween show, which was last year actually, and that was our first. Am I right in saying this, Chris? Probably like our first show back in 2 years.
First one back, yeah.
Yeah, literally, and the nerves on all of us. Like I think some of us didn't really say, but like me especially, for the weeks building up to that show, especially when like the amount of tickets we were selling for this show as well was like, I think we were peaking around 180, 190. It started to hit, but then I might be speaking out of turn for the band, but after we finished that set, I never wanted to do it more than after that show. It was just like this overwhelming feeling of, forget the past now. This is now rock and roll time. Let's go. And I looked at Chris, I looked at the band, and I was like, this is where we're meant to be, and this is what I want to be doing. And it was great.
There was conversations that were floating around during lockdown era that I don't think anyone really wanted to do. The conversations were had anyway of, are we going to turn into an internet band? Is this the direction for us going forward? There's various artists out there that, their primary mechanism for distribution of their music is via their online platform, and they will occasionally play a show. And that was a talking point for us for quite a while. And coincidentally, myself and Dan are the true advocates of, we really want to play these songs live. We want to be standing on stage. And it's not the other guys are not against the live show, but they were in a position where they were like, this could be a direction that we're going to take ourselves instead, because all the venues are locked down and no one got their houses and that sort of thing. But I think that Halloween show, especially, and there was another show that we played in Swansea with the guy in the pit, which we'll go into in a minute. It really rekindled everything that we love about live music, playing live, seeing the audience in front of us. It just boosted everything. And then the Metal to the Masses competition took that to new highs.
It basically reinvigorated you.
Yeah, it did. I'll tell you a story of the guy in the Swansea, because it's my favourite story. So they're playing our usual set, about half hour, 35-minute set. And about 20, 25 minutes into it, the crowd is really enjoying it. They're kind of jumping around. And there's a section in one of the songs where we've got, there's a little bit of a lull where there's only one guitar playing. And Dan will usually get into the audience and he'll split the crowd, and he's going to try and get them to circle pit or whatever he's going to do. And when he split the crowd, this one guy walks out of absolutely nowhere into the middle of this circle of nothing, and he gets on his head and he starts spinning around, and then he's breakdancing. So for the rest of the song where we're playing, he's in the middle, spinning on his head, and his legs are going everywhere, and we're just watching him like, this guy's amazing.
He's actually a professional dancer. He's literally just about to go to Spain. He's a brother of a friend of the band, and he's literally just got a professional job out in Spain. But he's a fully a big sort of break dancer. And I just looked up and I went, oh my God, there's a guy break dancing on our pit.
He took advantage of that moment. My goodness me, that's as you said, that's a story and a half that will likely never be repeated again.
That's going to stick in my memory forever anyway.
Yeah, definitely. I want to see it again. That's people are doing it wrong. Don't pay it, break dance.
Oh, everyone's always trying to break records at Bloodstock, guys. There is one for you then. The most people break dancing in a pit at Bloodstock.
You've called it now. That's going to happen.
But overall, do you think you guys coped as well as you could during the pandemic? And do you feel that you're stronger now for the experience that you've gone through?
I think so. There's a number of things that I personally worked on during the lockdown period. I was fortunately or unfortunately, however you want to look at it, I worked throughout the entirety of it. So I've been lucky enough to work from home. But unfortunately, I didn't get that Netflix time that most of the population seem to get. So, you know, swings and roundabouts. But
you're lying.
Obviously, I did watch a lot of Netflix over that time, but when a lot of the things that I was working on were kind of songwriting elements, musical production elements, and playing around in my audio workstation to try and get just more out of it when we were in that creative writing process. There were things like this hasn't been released. I don't think it'll ever be released, to be completely honest, but I did an orchestra version of the first album. Oh, wow. So the first 10 songs of the album, I've done like a string, horn, clarinet, flute version of it. And it wasn't for public consumption, but the process of that allowed me then to add orchestra elements to the EP, which was that was never going to be a thing. But there were elements of the song that we felt, especially around some of the more melodic sections where Drew is singing, that we could put strings in here and that'll just like take it up a notch. So that kind of being stuck in the house and not being able to go out and do things focused a lot of our minds in different areas that we would never have explored previously.
He's being really humble now, Carl, because when he said to us that he'd done an orchestra version of the first album, I was like, shut up. And then he played it, and it's pretty incredible, to be honest. For me, this is like the first band I've ever been in, and like Chris was saying, coming back after lockdown, to be able to like just sing in this band is pretty overwhelming sometimes, because they're like very talented dudes, and some of the stuff they tell me and they go through, and it just blows my mind. But yeah, it gave me a chance to like really hone myself in that 2 years and go, like me and Chris were just saying, like, yeah, I miss live shows. And like we weren't doing as many up to the build up, because as Chris was saying, we were in discussions of just becoming an internet band. But like that first show back after 2 years of not playing, I think it just sort of, it was a slap in the face to all of us, and said like, yeah, no, we need to be doing this. We need to be doing live shows.
There's the technical elements of the live show that we worked on as well, which is quite easy to overlook.
Chris, explain that.
Yeah, I'll explain, because you haven't got a clue what we're talking about.
No, I haven't got a clue.
There's
what's a mic?
When every band can go on stage and just play, but there's a load of things that go on in the background that an audience member won't necessarily realize there's work gone into that. We spent an insane amount of time, but a lot of time trying to streamline each of those elements. And that was something that we worked on throughout the Metal to the Masses competition as well. Some of the feedback that we had in the heat of Metal to the Masses was great, but is there room for improvement? Could you do more? And I took that as, I can absolutely do more. So there were things around, I started the Metal to the Masses competition with, well, you can probably see it there, like a massive pedal board of things like reverbs and delays and overdrives. And I was like, that's half of my time when I'm playing live is me spent looking at my feet. But why am I doing that? I should be engaging with the audience that sat in front of me. So I spent the time, we've got a quad cortex if you're interested in the specifics of it, but that is now MIDI programs for both guitars for the entire set. So our laptop, which is sat next to the drummer, when we pressed play and the backing track starts for the intro music, the rest of the set, it's programmed to do our reverbs and our delays and our lead channels and our clean channels. So I don't need to look at my feet anymore. So I can engage with the audience. I can look at them in their eyes. And I think there's little things like that they just give you that 1% edge on the live show and just allow you to experience it more. And I think the audience appreciates that back when you're looking in his eye as you're playing the solo, rather than, looking at your feet or worrying about whether your reverb pedal's on and it shouldn't be, something like that.
It's as a person that goes to a lot of live shows, it's such an important thing. The engagement, obviously, with an audience is part and parcel of a live show. If you look like you're having a great time on stage, it will spread into that crowd. It's infectious stuff.
Yeah, definitely.
100%.
It is incredible as well to hear like how you guys have worked on yourselves and as a group over the pandemic period. Any positives that can be gleaned from such a pretty terrible period for pretty much everyone is amazing. And it feels like momentum is building nicely for I Fight Bears now as well, which brings us, of course, to Bloodstock 2022, that you are going to be playing the Friday of the festival on the new Blood stage, earned by winning the South Wales Medal to the Masses. Have you ever been to this festival before as fans, and how are you feeling about playing it?
I haven't personally been. I know. I want to say hundreds of people that have been, and I always feel like the one that's been left out. Like I've finished my rite of passage as a metalhead because I haven't yet been to Bloodstock, but I'm going this year. I mean, the stories that I've heard is they're filling me with confidence that I'm going to have an amazing time. Anyway, put it that way.
Yeah, I'm a bit of a download hound, so yeah, I've always like gone to download and then thought, nah, I'll leave the second festival. But like, I'm absolutely buzzing because I didn't go to download this year, and even better, I get to go to Bloodstock and play the festival as well. And not only that, it's like loads of our favorite bands are playing as well. It's like really like, it's amazing. I can't wait. It's only a couple of weeks, and I literally can't wait to go. Like,
yeah, 3 weeks tomorrow, so not too long now. And I mean, the new Blood lineup itself across all the days is incredibly strong.
It's wicked. There's so many good bands. It's unreal.
And with that, though, that's a lot of bands vying for an audience's attention. What do you think I Fight Bears are gonna have to do to reel them in?
Oh, well, I mean, part of that answer is not be up against an amazing band. If we're playing at the same time as someone like Lamb of God, then I'm like, yeah, no, fair enough. But I mean, we've already got our plans for getting an audience into the new Blood stage for when we're playing, because we're not a Lamb of God, for an example. We're not, 400,000 streams daily or something like that. So the likelihood is the 20,000 people that are going to Bloodstock have probably not heard of us outside of the insane fans that we know are getting a bus down and they're going to come to see us because they told us last night. So we've been doing kind of background things where we've got stickers with QR codes on them and patches and stuff, and we're going up a day early, so we'll be there on a Thursday all day and the entirety of the Friday. We're going to be wandering around, we're going to be mingling and interacting with the audience that's there and saying, by the way, tomorrow we're playing, we want to see you break dancing in the middle.
Oh, I might have to throw it out then, because spoilers for something we're doing in a couple of weeks' time. But we do a load of lists leading up to the festival, as well as the features that you guys are going to be part of too. But we are doing the top 10 bands that we think you should check out, Bloodstock, and you guys might feature in that. So hopefully that'll help spread the word.
Oh, thank you, Ben. Thanks. Thank you.
It's Bloodstock. I've been many times. It's going to be fantastic. I feel like you guys fit so perfectly as well on the day, and it's awesome to hear that you're going to be around as well to kind of just meet and talk to people as well. That's such an important part. I think people forget the networking side of things. It's boring. It ain't that rock and roll, but it's part and parcel of it, unfortunately.
I mean, I don't know whether boring is the right word. I mean, there's a lot of time that needs to go into it, and it's determining whether your priority, what is your priority with that time that you're spending. Mm-hmm. And I think for us as a band, that networking and that mingling and engagement with the fans is up there with one of the top priorities that we have. engaging with the audience or the potential audience, or depending on when we play, it's the audience that just watched us 5 minutes ago. We want to talk to them and get their feedback and understand, what did you love about the show? What did you not like so much? Because we're going to change it next time. That sort of thing.
I did, yeah. I kind of meant the part where you get lined up to go talk to the press one by one, and have to answer the same questions over and over again about your performance.
Yeah, I mean,
I can't wait. In all honesty, I can't wait, because it's going to be a new experience. And if obviously things do go down that route and get better and better, it's literally, like you said, part and parcel of being in a band. I signed up for it. I've got to do it. Like, do you know what I mean? I'm going to embrace it all. I'll do a million interviews. Just chuck them at me. The boys can have a beer.
When you're 500,000 interviews deep, I can remind you of
that. Bring it on, man.
I hope we get a chance to talk to you guys at the actual festival then as well, because it'd be awesome to catch up then with it. But I mean, again, you guys' momentum is so behind you, building from the Roses, building to the Metals and Masters, and now leading to Bloodstock. And this, of course, ties into kind of what we talked about earlier on, and what I would use the word rebirth of I Fight Bears. Can you explain, though, why at this stage you kind of thought that was necessary? And I guess what it means as we move forward, because ultimately I think an important aspect is Bloodstock's not the end, not the goal, not the end goal. It's just the next step.
You mean rebirth in terms of tonal direction?
Yeah, the direction you've chosen to go in, yeah.
I guess that kind of comes down to, there's an element of personal taste that goes alongside that. So when we wrote the songs for album 1, there's 3 or 4 songs that were written there that were actually written before the birth of the band. I mean, Dan, you can tell the story about the actual birth of it, but essentially, Mark wrote a couple of songs for Dan to do vocals on, because he wasn't in band at the time.
I can tell Carl the actual story and he'll probably laugh. So I thought, I'll give Drew a shout, because I really fancy making a solo metal track on my own, because I think I can do it.
Cool.
So let's give it a try. So I asked Drew in the band, would he record me? And he said, yeah, I'll do it, but it'll cost you 50 quid, seeing as this part of his profession. And I said, yeah, fair enough. I gave him 25. We started writing. I said, yeah, we kind of need some members. Let's get Mark. So Mark came along, and then he started quickly writing some really good riffs. And next thing, we're like, oh, let's ask Chris. I've known Chris for a while. And me and Chris actually said to each other when we were out and about getting drunk about 18 years ago, so me and you were going to be in a band.
18 years later.
18 years later. And then I think the boys said, let's bring Scott. And next thing you know, we have a band. And I looked at Drew, I said, I'm not giving you the other 25 quid, you can piss off. And then that was the band. That was how we made the band.
It was a case of the songs that were written in that period. They were very much, we were aiming for a particular sound at that time. It was we know we like the early 2000s metalcore. That's what we're going to aim for, and a lot of the songs were geared around that particular sound. And I think the evolution of us playing together as a band, because those songs were written around the time that we started gigging, so it was quite some gig song. There wasn't that much collaboration that happened during that period, and we did a lot of internet back and forth with the writing as well. So Mark would write a riff, he'd send me the riff, I'd write the next section, send it back, and then we'd have a song. And it was a little bit kind of disjointed, I guess, in the writing process. With the second EP, that was a lot more collaborative, and not just with the guitars. That was like a full band collaboration of, I've made this thing, let's all kind of squash it and massage it and add bits and then take bits out and swap that over. And then it just kind of becomes this new thing. And having everyone's influences, because there's wildly different influences of genres, everything from the early 2000s metalcore to gent, deathcore, death metal, melodic death. I'm really into my prog rock and my prog metal. So any opportunity I get to add a weird time signature, I'll just squeeze that one in there, and that then creates the new i5 Bears. If you want to call it a rebirth, I see it more as a transition, because if you squash the time period down, it's a transition. With the gap of the pandemic, yeah, probably a rebirth is accurate.
Evolutionary as you learn and develop as musicians as much as anything else. It is fascinating to hear you describe how these steps have come about. It almost sounds so natural. Well, it clearly was very, very natural for you to get to this stage. And I guess my next question is then, do you feel as though where you're at now is where you want i5 Bears to be going forward?
Not yet. I think that we've got a lot more in the bank, put it that way. Some of the songs for, I think it's titled EP2 at the moment. We don't know what format that's going to present itself in, whether we just release them as the singles and then a collection at the end, or whether we do actually release it as an EP, or whether we decide to go mad and do it as an album. But the songs that are there at the moment, that are mostly in kind of a completed demo format right now, I'm very, very excited for those songs. I can't wait until we get to play those songs live.
Amazing. So obviously the focus is completely on the build towards playing Bloodstock and everything that involved in that. Bloodstock is the next step. The remainder of 2022 is the hopeful plan, just to basically be as busy as humanly possible.
Want to take that down?
Yeah, I mean, like Chris is saying, well, reiterating what Chris is saying, when the EP that we brought out is a collection over the last couple of years, whereas the tracks that Mark and Chris have been writing in the last sort of year or so, they're like a step up again. If that's the correct way of saying it, they're even better. And I mean, I was listening to the sort of 5 demos that are floating around at the moment the other day, and I was like, oh my god!
By the way, we cannot tell you the name
of course.
We definitely can't tell you the name.
They're all the working title kind of. No.
But they're just like, there's one in particular. Chris knows which one, and it's just it's so good. It's like, this will take us up again. It's like, I feel as if the collection of music that we've done since we started is just stepping stones as to where we're aiming to be, and it's just getting better, and it's just like really cool.
And we've got no intention of slowing down. If anything, it's the complete opposite. I mean, Bloodstock is that kind of jumping off point from my perspective. So, you know, we've been able and lucky enough to play very good shows with very good bands and big bands in decent venues previously, but we're grabbing Bloodstock by the horns, which is a pun on their logo as well. we're going to use that as an opportunity to say, like,
he's been waiting all day to say that.
I actually just thought of it now. I was like, that's
liar. He's a liar.
And you know, we're going to use that as an opportunity to just, you know, I want to play that show, I want to play that venue, and we're just gonna fight until we can get it.
Guys, your enthusiasm is absolutely infectious. It shines through the screens. I am so stoked for you. I'm so excited for the future. I cannot wait to see you play Bloodstock. I have complete faith that you're going to absolutely smash it, break dancers and all. Guys, thank you so much for taking the time to do this.
Thank you so much. Thanks, Carl.
Thank you very much for watching. You can check us out on gbhbl.com, as well as on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter and Tumblr. Go to Patreon and help us out over there. That's patreon.com/gbhbl, as well as Big Cartel, where you can find some of our merchandise. We have a podcast running on SoundCloud and Apple Podcasts. And of course, if you like this video, do us a favour, hit the subscribe button and help the channel grow. Games, horror and heavy metal. What else is life for?